Hello, my name is Alex Welsh, and I have the privilege of being your student's U.S. history teacher for the 21-22 school year. On my welcome slide, I have listed a few ways to contact me, including the best and most efficient way, which is awelsh@rochester.k12.mi.us. I can typically respond to an email sent to this address within the day of receiving it. The next best way to contact me is through our voicemail at 248-726-6501. I check these when I have a voicemail notification, but it may take up to a day or two to respond depending on when I receive the phone call. Finally, I listed our class's Instagram page, which your students will share with my 7th grade sections as well. And hopefully they shared with you a permission slip regarding whether or not your student is allowed to be featured on our page. Again, this page is a private, only meant for our students, collaborating classrooms, and other RCS staff. But we understand that privacy is a high priority and would only feature your student if you signed yes on the permission slip. Finally, I have a QR code available, which will take you to a direct PDF link of my class syllabus, which also your student hopefully have shared with you by now. In our short amount of time together so far, we've spent a lot of time getting to know each other and building those important relationships that is going to lead to a good and fun year together in class. We've also spent some time sharpening and refining our historical thinking skills. We did an activity that was geared around sourcing and the reliability of primary and secondary sources. We've also done some claim evidence reasoning and conclusion practice. We'll also be taking a look at the impact that 9/11 had on American safety as we approach the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And then finally, a lot of our time has been spent establishing the learning routines that are going to just help us have a positive experience this year. These are things like our day books, our classroom norms, good news, and other things like that. U.S. history is an intense, interesting, and important topic that I really enjoy teaching. We spend our time between the colonial era and the Reconstruction era, and then we'll end at the Reconstruction era, and your students will then pick up during the Industrial Revolution when they take U.S. history again in high school. I've listed a few units of study. We begin with the road to the revolution. So starting with the early colonists, the Middle Passage, and then working our way up towards 1776 and the birth of America. We then shift into the failed government of the Articles of Confederation and the successful government of the US Constitution, where we'll not only look at what the founding fathers wrote, but also how our basic rights in the Bill of Rights impacts us as citizens today in 2021. We then shift towards the struggles of an emergent nation, where we study kind of the lives and the policy of some of our beginning presidents, such as George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and Andrew Jackson. We then shift into Manifest Destiny, where we look at the impact that American expansion had, not only on the American people, but also some of the surrounding populations as well. We then look at reform in America, where we study the change that took place based on race, based on gender, the legal system, and education. This leads us into the causes of the Civil War and the American Civil War itself. And then we typically finish with the Reconstruction era and the 14th Amendment. I've listed a few bullets about my grading policy that hopefully your student was able to share with you already. I break my grades into 2 categories, and grades are based on points. 40% of grades are based on classwork, which includes just classwork assignments, debates, exit slips, checkpoints, and bell work and things like that, notes included. I tell the students that this 40% of the grade is the most important percent, because if you do well on the 40%, you're going to do well on the 60% or the larger portion of the grade makeup, which includes projects and tests. I typically let students use their classwork and their day books when they go to take tests, since they're kind of refining those note-taking and study habits that I believe they should be able to use when they go to take larger tests. I do accept late work with a small penalty. Up within the first week of the due date, I will take up to 10%. However, if I know a student is really showing a high effort to get that in, I won't always take the full 10%. Same goes for late work after the first week, but up until the end of that quarter, where I will typically take up to 20%, but again, not the full 20%, depending on the student's effort and thoroughness of the assignment. I cannot take late work after the end of the quarter as their grades are due. Finally, I offer redos if the student has completed all of their work. My rationale behind this is that if a student did poorly on a test and wanted to redo it right away, they may be wasting their time without going back and completing some of the work that would give them the fundamentals and knowledge that they need to do better on the test. So if a student does poorly on a test and has a few missing assignments, I may sit down with them and figure out a plan to finish those assignments before giving them the redo. But again, the redo is available if they have their work in, or when they have their work in. And then finally, missing work shows as incomplete, which will result as a 50% in the grade book. And again, I can take that until the end of the quarter, but not past that date. I went over a lot of information about our class and a pretty general overview, but I'm very excited to have your students this year. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and pause the video, take out a phone or something and scan this QR code, which will take you directly to a Google form where I'm just going to ask you your questions or comments about this curriculum night video. Thanks for watching. I look forward to hopefully getting to meet all of you very soon. Have a wonderful night.